So just before we start, there's a few websites there and the ways that you can all get in touch with us and follow us and subscribe to us. So don't forget to subscribe and follow us and check out our websites and support after this lecture. Thanks very much. So next, please, Matt. Happiness. Happiness is something that all people strive for, in our opinion. And it's something that people have, across the world, have written books about. People talk a lot about. The Dalai Lama is for him, it's something that is the main aim in life. And in Bali, we have a beautiful concept that was developed by the Hindu Dharma Council in 1966 called Trihita Karana. It's a three-part concept. So that's tripartite, sorry, bit of Indonesian there. And it's basically about achieving happiness or well-being through this connection between humans and God, or for people who don't believe in God, for the spirituality or the energy within themselves. So having that connection, that harmony there. And then between humans and their environment, that's really important for us, our talk today, environment and what's in the environment, how they affect the environment, and then the connection between humans and other humans, so keeping a good relationship with other people. So Balinese are constantly trying to, in theory, are trying to keep this balance or keep this harmony between these three aspects of Trihita Karana.
So they can reach the happiness that they seek.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add about that?
Basically, it's actually for Hindu Dharma. It's a Hindu Dharma concept, but actually, it's actually good for everyone to actually, what you call it, to put that into your life too. I mean, like, say if you're not, if you don't believe in God, you can still seeking this in yourself. So, I mean, like, you can do it in daily life.
Apply it, right?
Apply it. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. So basically, the first one, humans and the creator or the spiritual, it's a bit like love thyself, or love yourself first, and be in harmony with yourself. And then you can find harmony in the other aspects of Trihita Karana, right? Yeah. Next, please, Matt. So this Trihita Karana concept, we're waiting for the next slide, it's really suited to the agrarian lifestyle. And so we see that it's based on the balance that in times of old or before modernization in Bali, that it's based on the cyclic lifestyle. It's also based on a flexibility of time, because we all know that time can stress us out. And Bali's time has always, even right until now, to a certain extent, has been a lot more flexible. And then because of that, people could put a lot more focus into being in the now, and then offering thanks for what they appreciate in their lives. So people put a lot of value on nature, right? And their thanks for that, because with the agrarian cycles, which came up every 6 months, then they would have a celebration about every six Western months. So it's every 7 Balinese lunar months. And that's, in many villages, they would call that Odalan. And in some other places, they would have celebrations called Usaba in the older types of Balinese villages. And it was to celebrate the harvest and celebrate for the fertility of the land. And so part of the offerings for that weren't just offerings that people would create with their hands, but it was also offerings of music and dance. And so we see that this, in those times, the cycle fitted the ceremonial times as well. Now on Bali, you have a rice harvest every 3 months because of a modification of seeds, rice seeds, and so you have a rice field harvest that's out of sync with the ceremony, with the rituals. Matt, I think we just need to go back. Oh no, actually no, that's okay. Sorry, that's the right slide. So we look at how that has affected Balinese gamelan and dance. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the gamelan. So we have how this concept of balance, particularly between nature and the environment, has affected the instrumentation, is that we see these very, as the roots of gamelan, these very basically, I suppose you could call them primitive instruments that are made of materials that we find in nature. So we have bamboo, we have sugar palm, we have coconut wood, and we have these instruments that were influenced by how people were living and how people were working in the old times in the rice fields. For example, they would hear the sound of something that would transport the water between the terrace rice fields called talukta, and the sound of it like this, and also the rice, pounding the rice with these using lesong, and using that, and eventually that developed into interlocking patterns. But between the way they were working in the rice fields, in the breaks, the rice farmers would create their own instruments. So we have these instruments like gengong, which is the Balinese jaws harp, chungklik, which is a type of bamboo instruments with thick slab keys. You have
because it's replica the frog.
Yeah, and gung, the sound to mimic the sounds of toads, and then you have these other instruments that are made of materials that they would find in the general area, such as trompong mesi bruk, which is a type of trompong, not with pots, but with slabs of coconut wood keys or bamboo keys, and then with resonators that are made of coconut shells, or sometimes made from a fruit gourd, like that. And we see that these instruments form the basis for Balinese gamelan, and as well as the bamboo rattles. As you can see in the photo there, I've got our two boys and their cousins there holding onto these little bamboo rattles, some of which we've reconstructed. Some of the old varieties we've reconstructed at Mekar Bhuana. And these bamboo rattles probably came about out of the necessity to scare off birds from the rice fields, for example, and probably developed from kepuakan, the sorts of things that farmers would hit to scare the birds away. And you see these instruments that create vocal sounds as well, like sonari. Sonari, these like big, kind of like pipe organs, but they make a sound when they hit the wind, when the wind hits them in a certain direction.
And then
Pindaan, which is
in the rice farm.
In the rice farms, yeah, in the rice fields too. It's like got a propeller, and then Balis would attach different sorts of bits of bamboo so that they would create interlocking pattern like that between the bits of bamboo that would hit each other as the wind hit them, and as the propeller got faster and would move around faster and faster, you'd eventually be able to hear the interlocking pattern in a sort of a flow, and then as it slows down, it becomes sort of disjointed. So those are really fun sort of instruments. So they have these beautiful instruments created out of the balance with nature, and a lot of these instruments are very sustainable. So there are instruments that like made of sustainable materials like bamboo, sugar palm to a certain extent, but particularly bamboo is a very renewable resource. And you even have some instruments which you only use once, like suling somi, which is a type of flute that's made of straw. So you just play it once. And it reminds me, being a New Zealander and being from a culture that is surrounded by Polynesian influences because of Maori, we have an instrument there where Maori would take a a leaf from a tree and play that as a bird caller, but it can only be used once. Once you get saliva on it, it's wet. It's like the suling somi. It can only be used once, and you throw it down the ground, and then it's composted. So all these instruments are actually compostable, which is really great. And for the costumes, maybe Evie, you'd like to have it.
Yeah, as you see, you see it from the picture over there. There's a rejang pala. It's very interesting. Lots of rejang in Karangasem has a different type of headdress. It's very beautiful and amazing to be able to see that, because they don't do performance often. Yeah, because every Ngusaba, that's where they actually perform. So you see that rejang pala has this fruit on top of the headdress. That's a very sour type of fruit. And then you see the other one, rejang pusung, as it's also from Karangasem. It's not just made out of flowers, all different kind of fragrant flowers, but also the what you call it, the curve around the ones that they use on the head. Yeah. That's actually made out of pomelo. Is the Balinese orange? You know, the big orange. Okay. Is it called pomelo? Yeah, or grapefruit? Grapefruit. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite big, sort of orange. Yeah, it's very local, and that jeruk Bali, and because it's spongy, pomelo. Thank you. So it's nice to put over there, and look how beautiful the headdress, and amazing to have something like that. And we will talk about that later on a bit more. And
those ones are compostable as well.
Compostable,
but it also means that you have to make them before you wear them. So just to add a little bit about the costumes, I don't know if any of you heard of Barong Bruto or you've heard of Monga. These are two dances that are found in the Bangli area. Barong Bruto is a dance in Trunyan, and it's a very sacred dance, and it's danced by young teenage boys, unmarried boys. And these boys are about, I think, 29 of them something. They wear these big dried banana leaf capes, kraras in Balinese. And these capes, they actually are made of leaves that they actually pick themselves over a period of 40 days, apparently. 40 days and 40 nights. It's sort of got this kind of Christian element to it, and that sort of. But so they pick these leaves themselves from a place that's actually separated from where they live by water, so on the other side of the lake. And so they create these costumes and they wear them for the ceremony, which will last for I think about a week. I think it happens every 2 years up in Trunyan, in this village, and then the next for the next ceremony they have to make them again. So these big cloaks, with Monga, that's in Bangli. I can't remember the exact village, but the dancers dance. They're like a big bush. They're covered in these bush trees, and that must also be disposable, because we know that in Indonesia that you could use have something like a green leaf or something. You can only use it for less than 24 hours, and it's already going brown. And to be the same with these headdresses. They could only make them on the day of the ceremony, probably, or the day before the ceremony, and then they can't use them again. So what it means is that it's actually getting you more in touch with nature, your connection with your spirituality, and then you get with your devotion connected to the process of making this. Yeah. So looking at musical compositions now, what I mean is that the names of the compositions are inspired by nature, a lot of the old compositions. So we have, for example, with Genderwayang, which is a type of music that's often used for puppet shows and different types of rituals in Bali, such as coming of age, which is tooth filings. They have pieces of music that reflect nature. So we have, for example, Dongkang Manet Bu, which is a tree frog climbing up a banana or climbing along a banana. You have Sekar Jepun, which is a type of flower, Sekar Sandat type of flower again.
Flower they use a lot in their, like, not just daily life, but also like to offering.
Yeah, and offerings. And then you have, for example, in Angklung, you have Gua Maling Taluh, which is ravens stealing eggs. So you have many of these compositions that are influenced by nature, and then you also have the structure of the music, perhaps mimicking like the seasons, or those ideas that things or live and die and go around in a cycle like this. And so the older music until the early 20th century in Bali was always pretty much always cyclic in nature. Yeah. And in terms of choreography, Evie maybe wants to talk a little bit about choreography of dance, how that was influenced by nature.
So lots of dance movement also taken from the way the nature, something that's in the nature, you find it in the nature, and also people's daily life, because we're talking about Trihita Karana, human as well.
Yeah.
So you see lots of like palm tree leaf sort of movement when it's blown by the wind. So hand movement and hand gesture is like, it's actually taken from there. And then like there's also a dance like in the choreography, like in like Chondong type of dance. There's also like the courtier lady in.
Do you want to demonstrate it?
Probably I can do it here. It's
okay.
The courtier actually picking up, going to the garden, picking up frangipani flowers. So it's always frangipani always coming up in the story or something like that, or even in the music. So there's a movement where I'm taking this. Where's the movement of the courtier looking up to the tall tree and then shaking the branch. Yeah. And then now, after shaking the branch, the flowers fall to the ground. And then there's a movement even to get the flowers from the ground. So these are really, 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 like all these combinations of things that they do daily, and then also like how they really, their work or a job really connect to the nature, and that's put into the choreography.
So there's a story behind the movement.
There's a story behind it.
Yeah, so if you're learning Balinese dance, it's really good to understand that connection, because it's also going to make you a better dancer.
And being the Balinese dancer, you get to understand different characters, so you can relate it to other humans as well.
Yeah. So just getting back to the gamelan a little bit, with the cyclic nature of pieces, that was probably also because the music was needed for rituals. And these gamelan instruments in some villages, we're going to talk more next week about Selonding in a village in East Bali. And sometimes these ancient instruments were gifted to a village by a powerful king or something like that to complete the rituals. And those rituals were connected with harvest, with agrarian lifestyle. And as part of the ritual, they need to have these dances that were very repetitive. Some of them would induce trance, but for most part in East Bali, not so much. But as part of the ritual, so a lot of people could take part in the ritual. And the people weren't trained dancers, but they would also mimic the movements of animals. So we see in this village in Karangasem Slut where the dancers are mimicking their hands, are mimicking the mandibles of a type of, I think it's a black ant, type of ant that farmers had found in rice fields. And
what hama?
as it found to be a pest at the rice field, or something they wanted to remove from their rice field. And so this is all danced by male dancers in this particular village. And the other connection with Trihita Karana in terms of gamelan is and also with dance. But we see with gamelan, especially the large groups of people, we have to be able to work together to achieve something, a greater whole. And so you have to have, if you want to work together, you're going to have to be able to do it in harmony. You can't have conflict between the group. But we see that with gamelan, and this is what Balinese call gotong royong. So working together And you see in a gamelan group, for example, a kind of standard gamelan group, let's say Gong Kebiar or something like that, where even if you don't have a lot of musical skill and you might just always play, for example, the gong or something like that, or klenang, compared with, saying, the kendang player or something like that. But you need those people in the group, and you need to be able to keep the harmony between them. So you can't have conflict between that. You've got to keep that harmony between the humans in that group. So this is something I wanted to add that I just thought about now in terms of the influence of gamelan dance. So we can move to the next slide now. Thanks, Matt. So what we're seeing in Bali today is an imbalance in contemporary Bali. And as far as I know, this was starting quite a bit before I arrived. I arrived in Bali on a Dharma Mahasiswa scholarship in 1997. And I remember taking a photo over a temple wall in, I think it was in Pengosekan in Ubud. There was a beautiful ceremony. There was amazing baris dancers, and there was a gamelan playing, and it was very beautiful. There were lots of different gamelan and a lot of people at the ceremony. But I peeked over the wall with my camera. I didn't just take a photo of the ceremony, but I took a photo of the rubbish or the trash that had been dumped over the wall. And it was near the river? Yeah, right near a river and a ravine. I still have that photo. And that was in 97, 98, I think it was. And it was so shocking for me to see this in this beautiful, on this beautiful island that has this basis with an agrarian lifestyle. And it seemed like everything should be so organic and not be able to stay in nature and not be compostable,
for example. And so we see in these photos, you've got a picture of this hillside, Uluwatu, and probably looking for different directions here. But Uluwatu probably in the 1970s or 1980s, probably 1980s. And then Uluwatu, 1981, it's got a number year on it, and then 2015. And we see this all over Bali. And this over-exploitation of the land as Bali industrializes. But this particular photo is a result of tourism. And we're seeing that industrialization is the sign of the end of the agricultural lifestyle. And this is a little bit different for the West, where when we industrialized in the West, depending on which Western country you come from, but for example, in New Zealand, where I'm from, the government also helped to industrialize farming, and this hasn't happened in Indonesia. And so the farmers still have primitive tools, and they still have old-fashioned techniques, or the older techniques, and they still do slash and burn and things like that. And these techniques that have been left behind in many other countries. And because of this, the average rice farmer is very poor. Whereas the landowner might be richer, was almost definitely be richer, the rice farmer will be very poor. And then rice field land is not valuable if it's not being sold to a company or somebody who wants to buy it for a lot of money. And so in the end, the landowner thinks, I'm just going to sell it. And so that land gets turned into more profitable land. It gets rented perhaps, but then you lose that agriculture. I'm going to talk about the results of that shortly. With globalization, globalization, we're seeing that as globalization came in, particularly in the early 2000s, that Balinese have been seen, and a lot of people in Indonesia, but particularly in Bali, where there's much more of a connection with foreigners, is that they see the foreign lifestyle and foreigners coming here, and from talking with foreigners, that they see as the grass is always greener. And I think most humans have that sort of disease. So what other people have or are doing is better than what you have. And so I think people have been misled in that way. And of course, there was and there still is a lot of poverty in Bali, and that would have influenced that too. Also tourism for a lot of people, not just landowners, but for people your average person was much more attractive than rice farming because you could get money much faster, and they're with much more value, say in US dollar or euros or
so everything is
pounds
actually
like
connected on. Like the farmers in the village, they see it like for their kids, say, for potential to take their kids to study more, like for tourism, or became someone who worked on a cruise ship. So to go to cruise ship, they need money, and this money actually coming from selling their land. So there are lots of rice farmers selling their land so they can get their kids to train to be a cruise ship members. And then when they're back, they're normally going back, and then they don't have any land. They're probably trying to buy more land, but everything's so full already. So and sometimes they decide to, I'm not going to stay in the village, and I will go and work in the country, city. So it's just gonna be like a bad cycle if we don't start.
A vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So basically, the root of all this is corruption. So while Indonesia has improved a lot in the corruption rankings, we still have problems with corruption in Indonesia. But this corruption started many decades ago in Indonesia. Many Indonesians believe that it actually started with the Dutch through colonialism and so forth, and then that was rubbed off on some people. For example, like Suharto, who was the dictator of Indonesia for many decades. And then with the fall of him in 1998, May 1998, and we have this Reformation, they call it Reformasi era. We have this, it opened up very fast, and we have this flood of information, imports, foreign culture influences. And I think Indonesia it happened very quickly. And but because corruption wasn't eradicated, and it still isn't eradicated in Indonesia, we still have a blatant disregard for the law in many aspects of the law, which I'm not going to get into. It's very complicated. But where, in terms of the environment, you see there are zoning laws, but they're not adhered to. But there are building permits that are also not adhered to. Until probably recently, you could buy your building permit, hotel permits. And because of that, we have this overabundance of hotels. We have way too many hotels and hotel rooms in Bali. And too many villas that are registered, are often
owned by someone else, not even Balinese.
Yeah, so for example, in Kuta, the Kuta beachfront, apparently most of the hotels there are owned by non-Balinese, so people from Jakarta, or they might be in partnership with foreigners, with the money injected from outside of Bali. And so the government now, I feel really sorry for the honest people in government. I know a lot of honest people in government. I mean, not honest people also who are in the environmental departments in Bali, and it must be really frustrating for them because they're left with a broken system. And so because of that, we have no modern waste management system. I mean, I almost was going to say no waste management system. There is a waste management system, but it's not really managed, and it's not modern. And because of corruption, we have very poor education levels and health system as well. And those are real keys. Where I come from, a country like New Zealand, where everything pretty much works very well. And as a citizen, when I was a kid and growing up until I was 22, when I came to Indonesia, I just felt like the government just did everything for me. I didn't even really need to think.
Until you come to Bali.
Until I came to Bali. And so Bali actually turned me into an environmental activist, which I wasn't in New Zealand. And because you've really got to figure things out for yourself and then try and influence a system, how should I say, do something for the better so that things get better to help together with the government through NGOs and through individual efforts to try to help cure the imbalance. Yeah, fear. So let's go to the next slide, Matt. And the next slide is looking at the results of these imbalances. I did mention that we already have this, part of the results is a broken waste management system. You can see these awful pictures on the right-hand side. Bali has been hit by this waste management disaster or plastic waste crisis over that's really only really shown its head. I mean, I could see when I was looking over the ravine and that over the wall of that temple wall in 1998, that was just the tip of the iceberg. And it's just been, that's probably trash was still probably sitting there, you know, last year or something, was still probably there now. And this is something that's not only brutal, but it's tragic. It's really tragic. I mean, at this cleanup, this is a cleanup that Evie and I joined as Trash Hero Jimbaran, which is not our local area. It's actually that photo on the right-hand side of the top there is in front of the fish market where you buy the fish that you would eat when you're sitting on Jimbaran Beach for a candlelight dinner. So if
that makes you vegetarian.
Yeah, on that day, going home in the car after trying to clean up, all that white stuff, that's not snow.
No.
That's not snow. That's
very thick.
That's a thick pile of micro and microplastics.
We have to cover our mouth when we clean it up.
Yeah, shredded bags. We didn't bring masks. This is before COVID. We didn't have any masks. And the plastic waste was flying into our mouth. We had a small team of volunteers there. We've got some kids there. But the people in the fish market actually in front of us actually brought out bags of rubbish and dumped it on the beach right in front of us.
When we're cleaning up. I don't know what.
So in the car on the way home, Evie literally cried and was like saying, "My Bali," or, you know, and that's why we called this lecture "Bring Back Bali." And then I said, "I'm not eating fish anymore." So yeah, on that day, I because I was only eating fish pretty much, and then I decided to become vegetarian on that day because I was just thinking this plastic must be in a food chain. Talking about the food chain, that was in end of 2016, early 2017. I think it's towards the end of 2017 that Gede Hendrawan, who's a young professor from Udayana University, he released the results of his survey. So I don't know if all of you know, but Indonesia has been claimed as being the second biggest marine polluter in terms of plastic waste in the world, second only to China. And another fact that that was released in 2017 was the results of Gede Hendrawan's survey of the waters off Bali, between Sanur Beach, if you've been to Sanur, where Evie's from. Evie's born in Sanur. And then Nusa Penida, which is an island where a lot of people go and dive, and a lot of people fish in that area there because it's very deep water. And the results of his survey of the water samples there was that there were, and there are obviously, more microplastics than fish. And so Bali had already broken the record that was predicted, I don't say record, but the statistics that are predicted for the world in 2050. So I'm sure all of you have read about the prediction for the world. There may be more microplastics or plastics than fish in our oceans if we don't clean up our act. And this had already happened at the end of 2017. He also found that 80%, it might have been 85% of all the fish that he had fished from the samples had micro and nanoplastics in their cells and their organs. So it wasn't visible. But it was visible under a microscope. So that's really shocking. Moving on to the next picture. One of the reasons that both of us became much more involved as environmentalists to create a community, because Evie and I set up Trash Hero Katalango. Katalango is the village where we are in, Kasiman Katalango in Denpasar, was because of the second picture. This is trash burning. So maybe Evie can tell the story a little bit about how trash burning affects musicians and dancers in Bali.
So like anywhere we go and live in Denpasar area, in Sanur, or everywhere we go to research and anything like that, we always see this problem where people dump their trash like that and end up trying to clean it up by burning it, just like what you see on the picture. So it's happened daily when we try to play music. Playing gamelan is not supposed to be indoor because it's
Particularly
Balinese
gamelan.
Balinese gamelan. It's bad for us, for our ears, and so we need to play outside in the pavilion. Every time we play, we will smell this awful smoky smell, and then we try to find where is it coming from.
Acrid smell.
Yeah, and it's coming from the grass burning right in front of our house, or our neighbor burn it, or something like that. And that's actually really disturbing. So when you see the Trigita Karana, it's disturb everything. Disturb our own self to try to seek happiness, because we know that this smoke will also bad for our body. And then we end up getting mad to our neighbors, which is now our relationship and harmony from with human to human is like disturbed as well. And then now we can't really, we ruin the nature from the burning trash. So that's when, and we end up not getting this happiness on even to enjoy the music, to create creativity on that day. So we decided we need to do something. We need to cut this off, all this bad cycle, and we need to remind people that we need to make this harmony and the balance back again, just in by doing something in our daily life.
Yeah, I've often said that to Evie, is that can you smell that? And I would say not the smell of burning rubbish, but it's the smell of a broken system, or the smell of corruption, perhaps maybe corruption of the past. And the reason why trash is burnt because people don't know what to do with it. If you ask them why they do that, there's a zillion of reasons why people burn their trash. But one of them is because they don't know that it's dangerous and it's a quick fix. Some people have said to get rid of the mosquitoes. There's all sorts of different reasons. And then the 60% of trash in Bali is organic. So when it's mixed with plastic, it burns really slowly, isn't that picture there? By the way, that picture was only taken about 2 weeks ago. And that was in North Denpasar, I think, Angantaka, I think. And that guy there standing there, he's one of the, no, I think he's actually the Klian, or Klian. So he's one of the people in the Banjar who's in charge of the environment. So he's going there, and actually he was taken there by the head of Trash Hero, Vaughan, to check it out and for them to put out the smoke and then pick up the trash, get rid of the trash and take it to the landfill. And then the one at the bottom there, that's right at a temple. So that you can see by the temple there in the water, that's not fish. That's all plastic waste. And that's a photo of one of our friends from another Trash Hero chapter before they did a clean up there. They did a before and after photo, and they cleaned it up as much as they could. It was very clean afterwards. But this trash is just never ending, being dumped into the waterways in Bali. And it's interesting, before I became a parent, I didn't really notice the trash burning as much, perhaps because I used to be a smoker too, and most Indonesian men are smokers. And so perhaps we wouldn't notice the smell so much. And it wasn't actually until one of our students, who's a Dharma Siswa student from Canada, and we talked about the trash burning smell. And he goes, I think when I go back to Canada, I might actually miss that smell because it reminds me of Bali. And again, it's so awful that smell can remind you of Bali. Maybe the incense smoke, smell, or the smell of the kretek, clove cigarettes or something like that, but not the smell of trash burning. I think it reminds people, because we're actually sitting outdoors now in our pavilion here with some gamelan instruments around us and that. And I guarantee that within this next hour, somebody will start burning. And if they don't, it's maybe just because it's been raining last night, so it's too wet for people to actually get the fire started. So that's part of the results of the imbalance, but you also have the results of the loss of the water table because of overexploitation of land. And so you have the hotels that are drilling too deep into the water table, which causes saltwater intrusion, but also depletes the water that can be used by locals for their wells, for their for their water needs. And then water is also needed for the subat system, which is an ingenious system of rice farming, terrace rice field farming, a very democratic system. Again, keeping a balance between humans, between the rice farming community and the villages. So sharing the water from higher level to a lower level and spreading it far and wide. And because of the lack of water, it's not flowing properly, and then all the ditches are clogged up with plastic waste. Just across the road, the bypass road from where we are, there's the Kertalango, Desa Budaya Kertalango, which is the cultural village. And there's a jogging track there where you can jog around the rice fields. We've done cleanups there with the village. Our first cleanup there, we did over about 2 hours. We got 500 kilograms, two trucks of plastic waste. And we estimated that was not even a fifth of the plastic waste in that rice field area, which was probably about, I don't know how big it would be. And it's quite a big area. It'd probably be about 2 kilometers square or maybe 3 kilometers square. But so there would have been 2.5 tons of plastic waste just in those rice fields. So just in the ditches and that. And so when people even burn the rice fields here,
it's not going to be just organic.
Yeah, it's going to be mixed waste, and also the pesticides and things are being burnt. So we've actually had some people who work for the environmental agency saying, "Oh, we're not worried about the rice field burning because that's something traditional and it's not dangerous because it's organic." But they forget that the rice farmers use chemicals, but they also have used plastic bags now instead of gamelan instruments or bamboo shaking things.
To get the birds away now, it's not anymore that, what you call it? Apuakan anymore, but it's like the plastic bags flowing like this.
And then we've seen it ourselves. The farmers take down the plastic bags, put it together with this.
It used to be
the straws are made from
straws.
Yeah, the scarecrows are made from
plastic.
And then so they won't go to the effort to take them away from the rice fields, but actually just burn them together with the land when they do slash and burn. So you've got these really dangerous things going on in the rice fields too. Yeah. So also with the lack of education, and then the lack of permits and regulation in Indonesia, you've got these companies that come into Indonesia and say, we've got to help the people who don't have enough money to provide them with shampoo sachets or single-use shampoo sachets or small little cups of water so they have hygienic water to drink. But they're not looking at long-term solution, they're looking at short-term profit. And so by selling, they actually make a lot more profit from selling the small amount of shampoo or small amount of water in a little plastic cup with a plastic lid and a plastic straw and a plastic cover for the plastic straw. And then they're sold to these communities who are not educated about systemic waste and don't have waste management systems. And so these conglomerates or these big companies often, for example, I'm not going to name any names here for legal reasons, but these big companies that might be from France or other European countries or from America or even from New Zealand, and they're making these products that are not sustainable and they're not refillable, they're not reusable, and they're all single use. And they're pushing this on through, like, I don't know how many of you watched Indonesian TV, but in Indonesian TV, the ads can last for 10 minutes between a program. At prime time, 7 at night, you have so many ads. I've counted like 30 or 40 ads, short ads for instant noodles, short ads for shampoo, for diapers, for things that are all single use. Yeah, no food that is healthy. This is another thing we've got about
the lack of imbalance. So you actually, that if you're looking at that, your connection with yourself, you're actually poisoning yourself by consuming this type of food and drink.
And this only always touch straight away to the low class because they make it so cheap and all that.
Yeah, the lower class. And so we've actually had meetings with a particular massive company in Indonesia that make mineral water, and their answer was that the reason why they did that was to try and help the poor people. And we said, well, why don't you just set up refill stations or
hire them, or they can run their own business of refill stations.
Yeah, refill stations, and there are solutions for that. Using the power of the village, where they have this system with the Banjar, these communities made up of at least 300 families, where they can have these, they call koperasi, where they can sell things in refillable containers that you can bring your own container. You can get a much cheaper price, and it's much easier for you. You're not overcome with a waste management problem in your own house. So that's some of the results of the imbalance. The next one is with the instant culture, people actually found that it was easier to buy. They felt they didn't have any alternative. I remember when I first came here, I was boiling the water and drinking the water. But then somewhere along the way there, probably 2005, 2006, hardly anyone boiled the water. It was seen that boiling water was something that only poor people did. Also, it had a horrible taste to it. And so people would start to, I think these big companies, big mineral water companies, not mineral water really, brought their prices down, but then also started to
make it so
easy to get, practical. So we have this, in Indonesian we say practice.
This word's practice is something that...
Yeah. It's also a sign of that you had some income, so that if you had some you're more middle class.
You don't see this anymore like, saving money sort of thing. Although it's actually, they think it's saving money because it's like in small glass or something like that. But it's actually not if you're doing the calculation. But actually, I really miss the boiling water that my grandma made.
Oh, really?
Because she still used the wood Vaughan, the old Balinese stove. And then she will put this, what you call it, pandanus leaf when she boiled the water. And the smoke from the coconut husk
will be infused into the water.
Yeah, and then she will put into the thing, what you call it, the pan from tanah liat, clay, and that's give even more taste to the water.
Smoky.
Smoky taste.
So you've got this instant culture. I don't know how many of you have come to Bali or Indonesia and learned gamelan or dance. But more often than not, and this is my experience from learning with local musicians, is that rather than they give you a glass of water in a glass now, you'll just be given an aqua glass. I've just said the word aqua.
No.
Aqua glass is just what everyone calls it, whether it's any other type of mineral water, whether it's Club or these other sort of companies that produce the water.
There's lots of new brands.
So many new brands. You'll be presented with this cup, and like I said, the cup has a rippable top. Well, if you could rip it off. We used to spike it with the ends of our gangsa mallets, and then just drink it out, and then the straw would just get thrown away like that. But if you use the straw, then you've got to rip off the little flimsy cover, and then take the straw out. Now, those flimsy covers, they get mistaken for a type of seaweed, a very translucent type of seaweed that we find all around the shores of Bali. And we worked on pickups on the beaches and in the mangroves. You can't tell the difference. And the fish, the animal life, the marine life can't tell the difference when they're trying to eat seaweed, bite seaweed. And so that's why the fish live in this place.
And also people now too lazy to get up after a rehearsal to get their water. They're waiting for people to give them the water.
Yeah, I remember when I was learning Javanese gamelan in New Zealand in 1996, for those few months that before I came to got the scholarship to come to Indonesia, is that at the rehearsals we would wash our own cups after rehearsals. We would bring our own food. We'd bring food to share with everyone. So we're actually doing more sort of a
Fihita Karana sort of thing there than what people were doing in Indonesia, what people are doing in Indonesia today. So we see that, and with gamelan groups that I've gone and play with, often go and play with different gamelan groups in Banjar and other sanggar, and people won't get up during a rehearsal in the break during the rehearsal. They will just be expected to be served little cups of water or little bottles of water, and then cakes individually wrapped.
It used to be coffee. Now they not anymore. People make coffee.
Yeah, people don't want to make coffee.
If they make coffee and tea, now using the plastic cup. So the person who hosts the gamelan rehearsal, it's practical for them. They don't need to wash it.
I remember in the 1990s, there used to be the women's collective. They call it PKK. Would make the coffee and tea. But since the slight emancipation of women in Bali, I think women are also too busy. They don't want to come to the bandar and make a coffee and tea, right? And also the men probably feel embarrassed that they think, okay, we'll just provide some water.
They probably come, but to make it practice.
Yeah.
To make it practice, or maybe just cup water this year.
Yeah, so when I'm talking about the wealth gap was created basically by tourism. So you've got extremely rich people in Bali, are extremely rich Balinese, and extremely poor Balinese, but you also have more middle class. It was just announced by Jokowi, the president of Indonesia, that Indonesia is apparently no longer considered a developing country. Apparently, it's become above developing country. I don't know how that's happened in the middle of COVID, but anyway, we see that with the increase in the middle class like that, people want to show their wealth. It's something that we were perhaps doing in Western countries in the 1960s, 1950s to 70s, and people were really showing their wealth to their neighbors. It's certainly something in New Zealand that's sort of frowned upon now because we're a more socialist sort of country. But in Indonesia and a lot of other Asian countries, people want to show their wealth. So they have a little bit of wealth, they want to show it. And part of that is by showing that you don't need to wash the dishes. If you can't afford to have home help or something like that, a maid or somebody to help you wash the dishes.
Follow the trend as well.
Yeah, to follow the trend as well. You could have somebody else to. You can just provide something that is disposable, and then you just put it out of sight. Afterwards, you dump it in a river behind your house, or dump it in a ravine or something, or burn it. You don't have to wash the dishes and make that extra effort. And so that's what I mean about the wealth gap. The imbalance has created this wealth gap, but it's also it created this increase in middle class of people who can consume more. And the things that people consume more are the things that are advertised more. So all those things I was talking about on TV, all these single-use products. Yeah, people are not consuming water filters. People are not, consuming equipment for their kitchen where they can make slow food. They're going out and eating fast food and creating a lot of waste, or doing it now with COVID, taking out a lot of food. So I think people are learning to cook a little bit more now because of COVID, but also a lot of people are selling food to each other. Yeah, so they're ordering it in, right? But it's still wrapped in lots of plastic. And because of COVID, we've got even more of a problem with single-use plastic, and it's almost become not acceptable, certainly not acceptable for us, but a lot of people have said it's safer like that because it's wrapped in more layers of plastic. Let's go to the next slide, Matt, now. So that result of imbalance with the wealth gap has also created conflict between humans. Yeah. Okay, so how is this all related to gamelan and dance? Yeah. Let's talk about money politics a little bit. This is something we have all over the world, but it's particularly bad in Indonesia. Whereas if you want to get into a position of power, if you want to become a legislator, for example,
your voice.
We call it DPR. You can, or you want to become a mayor or something like that, a member of parliament.
One community particularly, and then you just give to the head of the community and say, "This is money. I think you're going to be a DPR soon. I need money for my community to get their voice. Let's just give money for the gamelan or something like that."
Yeah,
or to fix the temple or something like that. So that's where this big money comes to. That's why you see a big renovation on in the community on their what you call it.
And this is why people
Banjar.
purposefully not just renovate, they knock down the whole temple because that means they can get more money. So it could be have a historic temple, and this has happened in Denpasar over the last few years. It was protested about a bit after it happened. But historic temple was knocked down and then redone in this. Cynically, some architects have called it the Darth Vader style of andesite.
So
Stone,
lots of gamelan.
not in the style that is Denpasar style, which is more with red brick. And we see with gamelan. So with gamelan, the gamelan makers that I know, and because of our online store, I work very closely with gamelan makers, and they're so busy. They were so busy before COVID. Really, really busy with orders, and before my eyes, I've seen a head of a village with his entourage of people going to purchase a gamelan set that they've got from money politics. They've got money from money politics called Bansos, Bantuan Sosial, which means social assistance. And when they make the purchase or they give the deposit or whatever, the gamelan maker always asks them, do you want an empty receipt or empty receipt? How much do you want me to write on the receipt? They call it quitansi kosong. And so maybe the maker would put the signature, receive the money, but then they would leave it blank. And so the village can decide how much they want to put on it. And so there's that potential for corruption. This is not a secret. This is common knowledge. And this would be the same with dance costumes, but also costumes for musicians, but also costumes for a ceremony or something like that. And a woman who are going to go on maped, which means to
always new costume. Every single ceremony, new costume.
You're all at the uniform. And so there's a lot of wherever you can put the money in a big amount, that's desired.
So what we mean here is that there's money here coming in, and there's money for something, but it's always go to the wrong thing. So you don't reach or touch this money, don't reach or touch the right people, the right community that really, really do need.
And then big corruption money can be laundered in this way too. Yeah. So
that leads to
and so you've got this conflict as well, because between one bandar that got this help and the other bandar that didn't get the help, or one village got the help, other village didn't, there's jealousy between them. Sanggar have also applied for this sorts of help. You could apply directly to the government. You could also get to know somebody, wink, wink, who's in the government, and then they can give you some assistance. By the way, Mekar Bhuana has never done that, so we've never had any bansos. But it's even been to the point that sanggar, I know a lot of sanggar that have been set up with this money that we would say is not halal money, and that has resulted in an increase in sanggar. So sanggar are the arts organizations or studios, gamelan and dance studios in Bali. And so some of them have been set up with that. So you can ask your friend who's running for parliament to give 300 million, $20,000 US or stuff like that to buy a gamelan set, and then basically you set up your sanggar, right? And this is the relationship to gamelan.
Even it's happened in a tourism, like in a restaurant or in a hotel, where you actually, like we experienced this before, like there's probably the head of the food and beverage approaching us, maybe the manager approached, the general manager approaching us, but then the head of the food beverage tried to get the cheapest price as possible from a musician, or sometimes won't hire us. They decide they probably get the information from us, go somewhere and get a new person to replace us or something like that. So this is a healthy competition. We always see it.
Yeah. So the tourism industry has resulted in this very unhealthy competition between sanggar and Bali, and you often hear about these groups that are going, and I think on the Gamelan list, the Gamelan forum, I've mentioned about this, that even in busy tourist areas like Ubud, musicians still only receiving, depending on what performance they're performing at, but receiving 30,000 rupiah, 50,000 rupiah, which is only like $2-3 US per performance. Whereas the people who are hosting the performance are raking it in. But in the hotel industry, you're getting these people are taking, we're cutting off the money, so they're reselling it. So within the hotel,
So the food and beverage or the entertainment manager is reselling it to the GM, general manager, and the GM is often a foreigner and they might not understand the language, they might understand Indonesian or particularly not Balinese, and so they're having the wool pulled over their eyes as well. And so this creates this very, very sad market for musicians and dancers who, because they're not getting paid enough, even though the actual money is there, but it's all being cut through the middleman or middle person in the tourism industry. And so they're forced to bring their gamelan together with the musicians, together with the dancers on a pickup truck that would perhaps be used to bring sand, or in some cases maybe even trash or something like that. And they've got this mini gamelan set. A gong could be played by 6 people or something like that, where it should be played by 25, 27 people, performed in front of tourists. And then you also have this result where tourists, if one day they go to a temple ceremony and they see this massive gamelan, they don't understand what's going on, because or maybe they would say, oh, I've been duped. At a hotel, at a 5-star hotel in Nusa Dua or whatever, I've seen this little gamelan set, but how come it's actually the real thing is, complete size? And they'll see the difference in the quality of the performance, because the musicians and dancers are not motivated to put on a good performance if they're not getting paid well when it's outside of a ritual, outside of something that they do for the community, because they know that these big hotels and festivals are making a lot of money. That is the unhealthy competition. Now, in terms of unhealthy creativity, perhaps Evie could talk a little bit about this photo at the top, and then I'll go.
Yeah. So when we say unhealthy creativity, or it also leads to trend as well. As soon as one start creativity, that say that one is extravagance gate.
Extravagant, yeah.
Extravagance gate. It's actually made out of a styrofoam, which is carved sometimes. Really beautiful.
Styrofoam is polystyrene.
Yeah. And it's became trend now. Balinese lost its knowledge to use a material that's actually you can get from the nature. There's a lot of like the same ogo only recently, like Denpasar and other.
Maybe explain what ogo are.
Sorry.
Effigies.
Yeah, it's like a big giant papier-mâché.
Used to be papier-mâché.
It's like the frame used to be made out of bamboo.
Like a big doll that Balinese parade around the night before the Day of Silence.
Yeah.
It's something that was developed in the 1980s as a artistic, came out of artistic creativity, basically. But it's not a part of ritual. But these big dolls here, but now they're made, they were until about a year ago, made of styrofoam.
And then it carved into small pieces when they do the carving shape. Yeah. And that's of course leads to environment destruction as well,
and health problems.
Yeah, and this has become a trend, so everyone just follow, because this, like, during ceremony we have this massive gate. It's beautiful to have. But they didn't realize this is actually destroying the environment. Well, they can actually use a more natural material, and that Balinese has. So we need to make this trend disappear. So we need to do something.
So actually at the Gong Kebiara compositions, for example, you would have these big props, like you can see at the top there, the top photo. That's not a prop for a Gong Kebiara competition, but they look a little bit like that. And more often than not, they're made of styrofoam. Over the last, I think, 3 years, there's been some laws that have come into effect that are trying to discourage, or they're banning the distribution of this type of plastic. But because there's nothing from the president, there's also no local law. There's just governorial decrees. It doesn't have, we say in Indonesian, tidak bergigi, which means it doesn't have any teeth. It doesn't have any fangs. So it can't. It's difficult to enforce these laws. And so you're still seeing these, even many government departments. I see when they're having an opening, having a celebration at the government department, or if somebody has died who's the head of the department, people will still give them these big placards that are made of styrofoam. It's very unusual for it to be made of environment-friendly materials. So, yeah, the Gong Kebiara competitions
create a lot of waste in that sense. If you want to talk a little bit about trends as well, just in terms of the loss of the connection with nature and how gamelan and dance was used as a celebration or as an offering, celebration of nature, but as an offering to the gods or to the universe or harvest and so forth. Because of this disconnect, and also because it's become too expensive to bring gamelan musicians to hotels or something like that, because somebody's undercutting all the time, or there's a middleman, is that you see these groups, these trends of fire dancers, sexy dancers, dancers performing to recorded music, Bollywood types of shows. And because of corruption, lack of enforcement, the government's not cracking down on it. So you're getting more and more of these performances that are accepted by the tourism industry, often because the tourism industry might be run by foreigners or non-Balinese, or unscrupulous Balinese who just want to make a profit. And you're having these performances that are not accompanied by gamelan musicians. And you're getting more and more graduates from the art school like Isi and so forth who want to be able to work in their profession. So dancers, for example, they want to be able to work for the profession, and they can't just live from just teaching, so they want to perform. But then they realize the tourism industry doesn't pay well, and so they think, oh, well, I can just use recorded music.
As well, and mix things, which is a good, probably a creativity still, but is it unhealthy? There's some creativity healthy, but there's some unhealthy. We see that a lot on the reality.
Yeah, so you've got also, because a lot of young people have moved away from the villages. So you've got in some eastern villages, northern villages, got about 75% of the population, not just the young people, but the population, and even more percentage of young people who've moved away from the village and only come back at ceremonial times. They've moved away. Why? Because of tourism, because the attraction of the tourist dollar. And they actually live away, because it's 2 hours away to get to their village, away from their village. And they are losing the knowledge. For example, in their village, it might be famous for gambang or slonding or something like that, or gong gede or something, where you've got to learn pieces of music which are very long. Some other people learn something like that, memorize pieces of music and learn the old techniques from their ancestors or from their parents, and they're losing this disconnect. There's this disconnect. And because of that, you're losing that knowledge.
Yeah, it's actually, we're not saying that tourism is bad or anything, but it's just misdirection and exploit Bali in a wrong way. I think that's a way that we can do tourism or direct Bali to a better sustainable tourism.
Yeah, not saying tourism is bad, saying it's misdirected.
Well, they understand what sustainable tourism are. That is something that big question mark I always put to people.
Do they understand? I mean, it's just like Hita Karana has been used as a slogan by the tourism industry rather than used as something that's actually implemented. So it's actually a selling point. Hita Karana appears on ads, but it's not actually put into practice. In terms of trends, we're seeing these trends of competitions, not just Gong Kabiara competitions, but also now Gandera Wayang competitions and so forth, which is great. And you're creating these amazing young musicians. But I think this is as a result of concern by the government that you've got this disconnect. So the young people, particularly in the cities, are not interested in traditional music. A way to get them to be interested is to create these competitions, between kids, which we see as being potentially unhealthy because kids can experience burnout. But it also results in a homogenization of certain styles. So the particular style that is chosen, or a piece of music that's chosen for the competition, is the one that is learnt over and over again. But the more rare compositions or particular styles may not be be preserved, or not just preserved or passed on.
It's not informed into something that's more like variety of things that Balinese actually have. So it's like the information also gap. They're not letting kids from all over Bali to just present themselves in the competition presenting their own village style or something like that. And like I think there's something that needs to be done in terms of maybe the competition need to be just valuing the technique of the way the kids playing, instead of asking in the competition that they need to play one certain style or something like that.
Mm. So we're looking at in terms of single-use plastic, because there has been an explosion of the number of sanggar or arts organizations in Bali, because people have become more middle class, but then also the results of, like I was saying before, money politics, and so forth, money laundering, buying Gamelan sets, getting rid of huge amounts of money. With more sanggar now, in Denpasar alone, was it about 400 sanggar? In Bali, there are thousands of sanggar now, and over 1,000. And these groups, they all want to perform somewhere. And because of the competition to be able to perform in the tourism industry is too unhealthy, they're looking for opportunities to perform for free at rituals. So this is called ngaya. So to devote yourself as an offering to the gods through music and dance, right? And so when you get more and more people ngaya, for example, you have a big ceremony at Batur Temple, or at Besakih Temple, the mother temple in Bali, over a month. You literally queue in your car to get there too, but you queue, which is bad for the environment, but you queue in terms of to be able to get a spot to be able to perform at these ceremonies. Then once you get there, they provide you with food and drink. You all know that Indonesia is a wonderful host. They always provide food and drink for somebody who comes to their house or comes to the ceremony. And the easiest way to do that these days, with lack of planning, unfortunately, is to provide these sort of snacks you see on the left there.
Because it's practical, because it's clean, because it's wrapped in plastic, no flies will stop.
So you've got this little cup of water made by this company that I'm not mentioning the name of, and then you've got this piece of cake wrapped in plastic, and you've got a little another little, what do you call it, like a kind of a muffin thing on the left, wrapped in plastic. I think the only one at the bottom is not wrapped in plastic, got a little piece of paper under it, and then that will come in a box, and you can't see the straw for the cup there. And then you also get a lunch box. Don't forget about a lunch box, which will be in a mika. That's what that's called in English. Plastic.
Sometimes
unrecyclable plastic.
Use, styrofoam as well.
Just to remind you that this plastic doesn't get recycled. That very flimsy plastic around the cakes really either can't be recycled or it doesn't, because it's contaminated by food, and the recycler has such low value, so it goes to landfill or is burnt. Those cups, even though the claims of the company is that they reclaim certain numbers, but they end up in waterways, they end up being burnt. I think also the recycling value is very, very low.
You can imagine in a big ceremony, how many of those plastic we as a ritual.
So if you've got 25 musicians and then 10 dancers or something, so 35 people, and then the driver of your truck or your van and that sort of thing.
Times the many
times
groups.
How many times you got to have, or times how many times you got to have cups. So you might be thirsty. You would have 3 of these little. How many mils isn't that be? 200 mil cup, 100 mil, 300 mil cup. You need 3 of those to keep you hydrated. And then so you've got let's say 100 of these cups. And then you might not even finish the water if if you have had enough water, you leave it.
Get a new one.
You get a new one. Only leave a little bit at the bottom of the cup, or somebody might put the cigarette out in it. And it's also wasting water, of course. By
something that people hardly think.
It's never thought about how much water is wasted by the little bits of water that's left, or a half a bottle of water that's left with the water in it, and then it just gets tossed out. So let's move on now, I think, to the next slide, Matt. It's easy to get bogged down in how negative the
try not to be negative.
Single-use plastic can be on the environment, or how there's an imbalance. So how could we make a change? Evie's going to talk about how we can change ourselves.
So making a change. Many people probably think we're only just following the trend because now people start to worry about the environment and that. But actually, we already start thinking because we see the real problem. We play music and we smell the burning trash. We know that people ditch their trash and burns it right in front of our face. So we decide to, what can we do? Soon we're going to be a husband and wife. We're thinking we're going to have children. We need the future for the children. What can we do? We need to start from ourselves. So because two of us always go shopping, I remember seeing him coming to interview me with plastic bags.
Yes, very embarrassing.
And smoking.
2002.
Yeah, that was 2002. And so we decided, okay, let's make something different when we get together. When we married, we decided when we go shopping, let's try not to ask plastic bags. That's 2004. And it was strange for other people that this person shopping, I normally did the shopping, and never ask for shopping bag. There's a time where I always forget, and then I will say, oh, can I borrow the bag so I can move it to my motorbike? And I put it inside the seat. There's like a space I can put over there. Or sometimes if we're in the car, we just put everything at the back seat. So that's where the change actually starts, by stopping the bag.
And we got gradually more and more hardcore.
More hardcore, right? Really.
You look at the picture at the top there. That's our kit. That's our kit that we take.
Everywhere we go, including to ceremony, we strictly even prepare things for our musician, like spoon. And then we even call the...
chopstick.
Yeah, that's for our daily stuff.
Stainless steel straws.
And bags that shape like a turtle, so it's noticeable.
It's a reusable bag made from recycling.
When we want ice cream, we bring our own containers.
Our kids like ice cream or ice cream cups.
But they don't like the cone, so
yeah.
And then and then even at home where we do our gamelan rehearsal, our musician can only have cakes that I made, because I hate buying cakes where it's wrapped in plastic, unless I meet my neighbor who can make us banana fritter. So you see that the cup, it's reusable. They make their own. I would say, no, I'm not going to make you coffee. I will just prepare a coffee there. You get it yourself.
You get up and get it yourself. So we actually got our musicians to exercise. Talking about obesity in Indonesia is another whole problem. Yeah, another whole issue. But they actually get up now. We said, one of the founder of Mekar Bhuana is a Westerner. In the West, we get up and we buffet style. Yeah, and you learn this, and so they're happy to learn that.
And
so
there's
they get up and socialize.
A sign over there, not to smoke. Yeah, no smoking.
The sign at the bottom. It's
actually started when we take the musician to Singapore. We just use that excuse. Oh, if we go to Singapore, like cigarette or smoking is forbidden in the public area. So you need to learn how to smoke in the right place. Yeah. So we actually set up our outside area. Yeah,
so there are still a very small amount of smokers now in our group, maybe 15%. And so they used to smoke outside our gate, and we give them an ashtray, but we try to encourage them not to smoke anymore, because cigarette alert this through Trash Hero and picking up so many cigarette butts for the beach. Thousands every cleanup we do with Trash Hero, and they have in the filter there's plastic. So cigarette butts in Indonesia can't be recycled. And then we've got kawasan tanpa sedotan plastic, which means it's an area that's free from plastic straws.
That's actually include plastic water in a plastic.
Yeah.
Our drink, they normally come with that.
We've been trying really hard with our musicians, but they still hide their plastic bottles. They come in and they hide them from us. We'll find them in the trash can, but at least they put them in the trash can. We don't find them in the garden anymore. We used to find them just thrown in the garden.
Leave it there in the area. Every time we go to the ceremony, you see we're carrying our own water filter. We will normally say to the people in the ceremony,
the
committee, that we will bring our water, not because we not accepting their food or drink or not, but we said we will explain that we wanted to get less plastic, and it's also good for them, so they don't need to take their time just to provide us things. So we will say, if they can't provide food with wrapped in a banana leaf, we said we will bring our own. Yeah. So they don't need to provide it for us normally.
It's something that other groups probably wouldn't do because they'd have to spend money and go to
it's more like our commitment, because we wanted to go anywhere with a purely want to do this ngaya, devotion. So we devote everything, including also for the environment.
Now, these gravity filters, we're not promoting Nasapa. We have no connection with promoting Nasapa, but there are other brands too. But these are very simple gravity filters that can be used all over the world, and are particularly important in terms of disaster relief. They're very small and light. This one's, I think, 7 liters. So you just put in dirty water on the top, any sort of water on the top. You could put muddy water on the top, and then it comes out slowly through a nano filter where it goes down to 0.4 microns, which is smaller than the world's smallest known bacteria or parasites. It's very safe, and so we have these gravity filters we take with us. And then it's part of the whole thing, trying to influence others. We'll talk about that a bit later. But with these water filters, we bring our own cups for the musicians. Those bottles are our bottles and are our kids' bottles. Only 1 or 2 of the musicians started to get bottles, which is really cool. So we're influencing them. But we would like to try and get 30 bottles for all our Samarapukuleon Pelegonga musicians engraved with Mekar Bhuana, and maybe have their name on it or something like that, so to mix them up, but so that they have these to take wherever they go. So not just for Mekar Bhuana, but they're also taking them everywhere they go, to ceremonies, to school, wherever they are at home. They've got these water bottles. So that's a way that people can support as well.
So when making change, we need to learn ourselves first. So we need to practice ourselves. If we can manage to do it, means like it's easier to ask other people, because we're the role model. We already trying it, and we make sure telling them that we done this. This is easy to do, so let's do it together. That's why we also changed the way Mekar Bhuana doing things, like on provide things during the ceremony, and then we make a system where we can have it written down and send it to like travel agents, the things that we want them to highlight during if they bring their guests coming to study at our place. Like we will say that we provide drink at our place, so they don't need the guests or the people who come to study with us, they don't need to bring their own bottle, because we sometimes still see people actually bring their mineral water, not their water bottle. And so we provide cakes that probably not wrapped in plastic. We will always say that, but it's really hygiene. I will make it ourselves, and we know where. Maybe if I need to buy it somewhere, we know who make it and all that. So it's still healthy, and we know it's hygiene and not going to make people sick when they come to our place. So that system we set up, being to change started from ourselves and Mekar Bhuana, and we also not just doing it in the service only, or people can see, just to try to impress people, no, but we actually do it behind the screen. Behind our house in the kitchen, we even like our staff go shopping with their own reusable bag. If guests coming to eat, we all provide with food that we actually either grow at our garden, some, not a lot because we don't have a big garden, but we make sure that we buy the food not wrapped in plastic. So they help there. By buying food at our place means they help.
As much as we can, we prepare it on site.
On site.
Yeah, and then it's coming from our garden. It's coming from the food being recycled through the composting, right?
And also from the market where my staff know where to get these things not wrapped in plastic.
Locally, if we could support our neighbours, that's the best thing we can do. That's also in line with Trihita Karana.
And then at the back of the kitchen, the compost bin where we always put something from after our cooking. It goes all the way to the compost bin that we set up ourselves from learning when we visit countries. And then we also learn where we go everywhere, like became the artist in residence in Canada or in Europe. I always watch how the country manage their trash. So at the back of the kitchen, I have it set up how the separation going. Yeah, a lot of separation there, like bottles and all that. So we're doing the 5R, we call it.
Yeah,
reduce.
So the 5R, refuse first of all. Refuse single-use plastic, unnecessary plastic, and then reduce.
Reduce.
Yep, reduce your consumption, and then reuse is the next one, and repurpose if you can, turn it to something that is even better, upcycle, and then recycle is the last resort, because we already know that recycling is just a myth, and most of the world's plastic is not being or cannot be recycled. What's that?
What's the rot thing?
Yeah, our R is rot, so we've got another 6 there. They're getting more and more R's as people think about it more. It took about thinking about it. We are also influenced by our friends that we meet on social media or friends that we know across the world. For example, with these tiffin carriers, you can see at the left hand, our kit, left-hand picture at the top. Tiffin carriers, as before, I think about 2015 or 2016, where we're actually using plastic and Tupperware containers to buy takeaway things, take out food. But now we had a friend in Holland, and she said, "Why don't you use tiffin carriers?" I go, "Oh, I hadn't really thought about that." And then we knew that these tiffin carriers, you could actually buy them quite easily in Indonesia. They're quite a reasonable price. And it's those stacks of containers, these wonderful containers that were developed in Mumbai in 1890s.
Well, I still remember. There's also one rules that Mekar Bhuana, we make change at Mekar Bhuana, is that every single group that come to our place, we always send them a reminder of things that they can do to be aware of before they arrive in Bali and study at our place. That at least like bring your own water bottle, bring your own bags. When they come, we suggest them to stay nearby, like within walking distance, so we can reduce, especially if they study like over a period of time. And if we always work with a hotel, if they decide to ask us to arrange their stay in hotel, we normally work with a nearby hotel, because we also ask the hotel, we always check the hotel not to provide single use in their bedroom. Instead, they can replace that with something that reusable, like refill station water for them to use over there. That's actually connect. Yeah, that's something that you will see for the next one. Maybe we should move the.
So in a second, but just after I was in a residence in Toronto 2013, as guest lecturers, when we came back to Bali, we could use that money that we had made to reinvest into our cultural immersion program, and we had inquiries from universities and schools to come and learn with us as large groups. And then we thought, oh, wait a sec, we're going to have large groups coming to Bali. We've got to be responsible for that. Whilst we can't be responsible for the carbon credits from the flight to Bali, but we can try and reduce the impact that they have in the environment when they arrive here. And so we try to provide them by emailing them about what they should, to explain to them that, to be honest with you, Indonesia doesn't have a proper waste management system. So wherever you are in the world, even when we go to Singapore, we bring our own bag, we bring our own tiffin carrier, we bring our own straw.
To the country as well.
And then if you see trash on the road, pick it up. And so we can talk about that, and we'll talk about that in the final slide, what you can do. But now I'd like to move on to the next slide, Matt. You okay with that?
Yeah. Next slide.
So the next one is inspiring a change. So the first way we do this is through family. Slide is just coming up now. You can see some of our young family members. That's our son there, with Stay Chill shirt on there. Our other son on the left side of the girl in the middle, who's our cousin, yeah? Okay, Evie's just got to go and get a costume that she wants to show you. And so we try to inspire our family. So we have these practices once a week. For those of you who follow us on Instagram and Facebook who have come to visit us in Mekar Bhuana, know that we have a family group. It used to start off, it used to be a slonding group. Now we play 2 different types of angklung. And we play very basic, organic, agrarian style music, very old style music. And because they're all beginners, and these kids, but also adults, have never played gamelan before. Most of them are actually dancers. And so we try to inspire a change through them. So every time we have practice, they see that we provide them with things with no plastic on them. We say to them, when you come in here, we're going to provide you with lunch, but please don't bring it. Go next door and buy, some things, ice wrapped in a plastic bag or something like that. Don't bring straws in here. And we influence through that. But then when we go and perform in temples with our family, or we've been overseas, performed at festivals and so forth, we explain to them about our kit, and we bring our kit together, and then we've provided them with free bottles, as you can see at the front there,
Some of the kids in our family already have the initiative from their own parents that have already been bought bottles. There's this concept in Indonesian, not concept. There's this, what's the word? Trying to think of the word in English, but there's sort of judgment in Indonesian culture. Whereas if you bring your own bottle, you're like a kindergarten kid, because you have to bring your own bottle to a kindergarten. And it's only just become mandatory in some schools. But for adults to bring their own bottle, they see it as sort of, kiddie sort of thing. And so we're trying to get through that by having these attractive stainless steel. These are the trash hero bottles, right?
Yeah.
And through the family. But we've also involved the family in Trash
family,
Hero too, right?
It's easier. In this year, this is another reason why we joined Trash Hero as well, because we want to involve in inspiring others in a bigger scope, not just family, but also other people within our channel and community, and also connect with people around the world who have the same passion as us.
It's a bit like Nusantara Arts.
Yeah, it's a bit like Nusantara Arts, you connect.
Well done, you're trying to connect. There's people who have this passion about gamelan and dance, especially in these difficult times with COVID-19 online. Part of Trihita Karana, so that's connecting, keeping that harmony between people. So well done. With Trash Hero was set up in Switzerland. It's a not-for-profit. And in Indonesia, we actually have Trash Hero Foundation, and Evie's an active member on the board there. But then we have these communities in a number of villages. I think there are 27 or 29 chapters just
growing
in Bali.
All the time
it's
around
mushrooming.
Indonesia now.
So it's not for profit. It's not a business.
I was probably the first woman leader and founder at that time for a village. A lady.
So Evie and Denpasar is very, very active in the environment, as she's received awards from the mayor of Denpasar for her dedication. And this is all volunteer. So we do a clean up on the beach because the beach does need to be cleaned up by the community, not just by the government, because the government doesn't have the big bulldozers and things that they need.
But it's not about clean up, but it's more about educating.
Creating awareness.
Yeah, because Balinese learn by watching other people. They tend to feel embarrassed when other people doing something for their family or community. So basically like that. That's why we do it regularly, so everybody can see it every time. So it's consistency is very important here. That's why I like joining.
Indonesians learn by doing, but particularly Balinese learn by observation and then by doing it straight away. So they don't learn intellectually how to do something, but
That's why it's important to be a role model, because they tend to follow something and then it became a trend. Yeah. Everyone's copying.
So similar to Gamelan and dance, people learn through observation and through copying it. And that's the same with people go to the beach on a Sunday morning. They see us there for 1 hour doing the cleanup, and then we do an hour of separation, separating the trash, counting the individual numbers of straws and so forth. But it's something that people, it becomes contagious.
Yeah.
But do you want to watch that film about? We have time to watch that film.
About what?
The 10-minute film about. Because it talks about
maybe a bit later. Yeah, so through Trash Hero, I learned so much. I also meet other people who doing like some creativity. They are reducing, they turn trash into something beautiful and useful. You see that costume? That's actually a dance headdress.
A rejang.
A rejang dance headdress made out of a plastic sachet.
Made of coffee sachets.
Coffee sachet. It's already been used last time for a collaboration between a dancer who also a diver who come to Bali at that time to want to make awareness about the plastic trash and the ocean, and then also to help to contribute to the disabled community.
Yeah, so there's a disabled community that's very well supported in our village, and there's a foundation near our
we work a lot
center.
With them together with our culture immersion program.
Yeah, with our culture immersion programs, groups of universities and schools can come and perform with them, and to also make music together with them.
At first, I learned from the community how to make this bag.
Did everyone see that?
From plastic sachet. But I have a thought in mind. If I want to create a trend, or at least to open people's minds about plastic trash, like how they not, because Balinese tends to do things like, it's practical. That's why the coffee, I might just have coffee sachet, everything in one, 3-in-1, or coffee, milk, and everything. I used to like it, I remember, but I don't know where to throw it away. So we want to educate about separation. So I decided to create a costume. That one of it is that dance headdress, and this is my other next one is like, this is a belt that Balinese dancer wearing. Yeah, and then there's a legong.
Remember, these things cannot be recycled.
This is
so
something.
This is stopping it going to landfill.
I'm going to use this sometime for a dance.
You can see that C. That's just a C that's become the flower. That says cappuccino, but it's become the sides of the flower.
So it still smells like coffee. And this is a legong dance costume. It used to normally made out of buffalo skin. So because plastic is very strong, and especially in this sort of shape. So yeah, I do hope I can inspire people.
Is that the headdress?
Yeah, this is the headdress. There's a different type of headdress of a rejang headdress too. So I will share the photo on the.
Well, we don't want to encourage consuming coffee sachets to make these things. This is something that people have been a little bit misled by, is that the government encourages people to be creative with not recyclable material, with plastics and things like that, single-use plastics. But it should only be used for single-use plastics that that are already used, already thrown away. So, for example, if you're doing a performance and you want to show how dangerous plastics are, you shouldn't go and buy new cling wrap or glad wrap and wrap it around the dances and do this modern dance.
Or new
plastic bags, something like that. You should use the stuff you find on the beach.
So this one is actually something that I collect.
Use old sandals.
Trash bag, through a shop that's selling coffee. And they normally make coffee for other people and they want to throw away. I normally talk to the sellers and say, can you keep that? I will collect it and then I will make something into it. I will say myself and all. Yeah, it's actually been really, really fun making making a change.
But the backstory behind that's so important, yeah. So,
yes.
So if you do a performance, you need to really explain the backstory.
So it's not just any following trend that because you need to understand first. Start changing yourself first, and then by changing others, and you can start creativity like it is what I'm doing at the moment. Try to understand it myself, apply it to myself, and then make this trend come out now. Especially it's a trend now, but that the most important that you understand it. It's not just because it's just a trend, and then you come out there showcasing it.
But when you're talking about family, you've really got to have this, the family members, they've got to be together with you if it's possible. Evie and I are a compact team in terms of, and with our children as well. So when our children come home from school, often they've picked up trash in the what do you call it? The gutters next to the school or in front of the school or off the sides of the sidewalk or something like that. They're in that. They know that that's the right thing to do. And if there's one person in a relationship who's not supportive, it becomes a problem. And we also want people to understand, and I want people to understand that Evie hasn't become an environmentalist because of me. In fact, she was more of an environmentalist than me. Like she was saying before, in 2002, I was still carrying around plastic bags. I was still smoking. I wasn't thinking about these things as being, an issue. But she's influenced me, so it's actually the other way around. Because I think a lot of people misinterpret our environmentalism or our environmental relationship. On the left here, we have the picture of our water filter at a group in Kuta. Now, if you know Vaughan Lothring, Guru Lothring, very famous Pelagoan composer from the 1920s and 30s, 40s, 50s. And this is his Banjar Tegal and Kuta, where I spent a lot of time learning their music, playing with them, but also tuned their gamelan and retuned their Gongkabiar set to become the old Pelagoan tuning from the 1960s, one of the old ones. And anyway, I would always bring my water filter. So I would come, we've got an electric vehicle, three-wheeler electric vehicle. I'd go to Kuta and that, and I'd bring my water filter, bring the cups. I'd even serve the musicians.
at the beginning.
People would thought that was really strange, but eventually they would get up and get their own cups of water, and they remembered me for that. Right? They thought I was pretty strange. I mean, your average person would not do that here, but that was that sort of activism. I really had to do that to really push that in their face. And then I had people asking, where can I buy the water filters? I want to buy this water filter for my warung, a little kiosk where my grandmother sells. They used to sell these bottles of mineral water, but then she could sell cups of water and actually make more money from selling filtered water, for example. But they also want to have this water that's easy to access in their house, so they don't have to go out and lift these heavy gallons of water. It's bad for your back and that. And so you can just fill it out for the top. And these water filters can reach, far off villages. You could use very little water from the dirty water from the rain, collect rain, dirty water from the ditch or whatever, and you comes out with clean drinking water. So that's that, and that's why we became a refill station too. So you can come to Mekar Bhuana as long as you don't come with hundreds of people, but if you come as individual backpacker or traveler, donation based.
We actually work with a guy who make these apps called Refill Bottle, and then there's Refill Bottle Bali. Now this app it's available on the iPhone and iPhone store and the
so download Google it if you come to Bali.
Stores,
Refill my bottle.
And you can see where the places that actually provide refill water
on the
that's
map.
Safe. It will say whether or not this is something that you can purchase, or the refill is purchasable, or a free refill. Normally, like dive company will provide it, and it's open for people. They can just come in and can I refill? We tried that before when we went to Amat for research to the Angklung village. Actually, we went to one restaurant with having that as a refill station, and it's just fine. We got really clean water and all that, so it's very, very great.
Yeah, it's very practical thing to have around the world.
Especially if you're visiting Bali later when it's safe.
Yeah. Matt, do you think we've got time to watch that 10-minute video, or are we going to run out of time here?
Yeah, I think we got some time. We can watch that video and then come back for some Q&A.
Okay. It's just that there's one more slide there, what you can do. Should we do the what can you do first, or shall we watch the video first? The last slide, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Let's go to the last slide.
Okay, because not just inspiring others, we want to explain to you what you can do when you come to Indonesia, but there's also things you can do yourself, and hopefully some of you be inspired to change in yourself if you feel like you need to change and influence others. We could see here that this is a cultural immersion program. A student from the US is learning dance with one of our Mars dancers here, and he's got the bottle. He's saying, "Why don't you bring your
it's a story,
reusable?" But it's a story. Yeah, he's telling the story to him, even though he actually bought his own reusable bottle. But yeah, so this is it. Going through drama, and this is something that you can do through Balinese dance too, to educate about the environment. And then you've got here, this is actually if you could care about, first of all, care about how if you care about Bali, then you should plan. And so as a researcher, I mean, I do research, I'd say just do it weekly, but now I can't do the research out in the field. It's too risky. But that's my kit there. It's a lot of stuff here. So I've got a couple of tiffin carriers. I've got all my vegetarian food there because I know at ceremonies they'll provide me with meat. I don't eat meat. And I've got my water bottle. I've got my cameras and stuff. I've got my notebook, and I've got a cutlery. I've got I don't use straws, but I've got chopsticks and stuff like there. But these are sorts of things you could prepare. I still see a lot of foreign researchers, not naming any names, of course, who come to Bali and they're still, accepting they're accepting the cups of water, the bottles of water at ceremonies. You should bring your water filter. Those water filters are small, or buy one when you come here. We can explain to you how you can buy one. They're very cheap. Those water filters are only about $35 US for one of those. As long as you bring your own water bottle, like if you have that app, you can go around to see where is the location. Yeah, you could do that. Ahead, or you could just have one in your hotel room. You could just fill up, have one. And so every day you go with your bottle. And so you have a plan and you act. So part of that action is refusing. So you refuse politely. I'm sorry. I know it's not really Indonesian culture to refuse a drink, but people understand. If you could say, I've already got my bottle, people understand. There are more and more young people bringing their own bottle with them. And so you could explain, I do this, I love Bali. You could just explain in English, I love Bali, I do this for Bali.
Our
So
act
no
is
more
really strong
plastic trash.
for others to get other people actually to understand. And at the same time, it's educating. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you could say, maybe in your country, we always bring our own thing. Perhaps you could share some of your food with somebody, but you're also turning down the box with all the plastic in it. And hopefully the location where you're doing your research might be at a ceremony, and then maybe they'll think to provide food that's not wrapped in plastic, so buffet style. We've convinced a few villages where we've gone and performed that we might give a talk there at the ceremony about the environment, or before the ceremony, after the ceremony, or something, and then explaining about that. And so we'll explain that it's best to have buffet style, and then to provide ceramic cups. And there are some temples that are changing, right? Batu Karo Temple, for example, they filter their own water. They have a good water supply there, but they filter their own water there, and they make their own tea and coffee in cups. And both the men and the women, which I like to see, are washing their glasses and cups. And another thing, you can act, so when you're at a ceremony, you see trash on the ground, just politely pick it up and put it in the bin. Maybe don't scold somebody, but
it's easy to inspire
through action.
By our action.
It also embarrass people into picking up the trash. But we've got to remember that behind all of this problem with littering, it's not just the fact of littering, because people are litter around the world, and the plastic companies want you to think that the problem is littering. It's not the problem with littering, the problem with the consumer, and it's also the problem with their product design. And these companies, they should be providing refill stations, and they shouldn't be providing single-use plastic. And so even though people are wrong to litter and so forth, but litter in New Zealand, for example, blows around the place and ends up in the waterways in the oceans, and it's hard for us to control that. It leaks out of the landfills and so forth. And so it's best to refuse and not to use it. You could support
and contribute.
Yeah. But you could support, like, for example, we donated this water filter to our son's school. We've donated it to the village. We've donated
to education normally.
And we can, if you can support, they don't cost very much. Like I said, they're like $35, maybe less, $30. About $35 US for one of these small water filters, or $60 for the bigger ones, and so forth. And you could donate them to the temple where you're doing your research or something like that.
It's a way
I think
to
it's
give
rather than give money,
return,
you give something physical, and you could, if you learn how to use it, but you could teach them how to use it. But it's also got instructions in Indonesian. They're very simple to use. And so you could contribute in those ways. You can also contribute by coming to learn with organizations in Bali that are doing beach cleanups. For example, we're involved with beach cleanups. And you can
help the disabled community that's around that area.
Yeah. So, but like I said, when you're anywhere in Indonesia, you see trash, just pick it up and take it to a bin, and people will get that example. But refusing is the best thing, and bring your kit. Like I said, bring it to Indonesia with you. Don't expect to be able to buy this all easily here. I mean, you can, but bring it with you if you can when you're traveling. Bring your bottle, bring your tiffin carrier, bring your boxes, whatever you can bring on the plane with you. Now, in terms of reuse and restore, I think you all know that at Mekar Bhuana, I restore and reconstruct old gamelan sets. Now, there is a tendency that most groups overseas want to get new gamelan sets, but I would encourage you to, if you already have a gamelan set, to restore it, to try to reuse. For example, if you have a plastic cord, don't just cut it if it's getting worn down. Don't just cut it off, but try to reuse it if you can. But if you're deciding to get a gamelan, get a second-hand set. Don't get a new set, because it's a pressure on the environment also in Bali.
It's much better, right, in terms
of the tuning. Yeah, so the tuning is going to be more stable if you get a second-hand set.
And there's a history
behind it. You're going to be supporting the person who's selling it,
They probably they want to sell it for some reason. There's always reason of why they sell it second hand. Sometimes they no longer be able to maybe get the people together, but it has history.
You may be able to buy secondhand dance costumes too.
That's
I mean,
right.
we sell these. We sell.
we
Kids
support
also
this.
sell these things through our online store. But I think it's bear that in mind. If your university or your organization in your country has a desire to buy a gamelan set or buy dance costumes, see if you can get that secondhand. It's going to be better off for everyone in the long run, yeah, because you're going to reduce the environmental impact. Reduce people cutting down trees for wood, using all this plastic for the cord for the keys. People used to use cowhide for the keys, or for the cord for the keys, or use a different type of coconut cord or something like that. That was more, how should I say, compostable, like that. And then you're also reducing the amount of paint and things that is being dumped in the waterways, leftover paint from painting gamelan, and also the whole smelting process of making bronze. It's something to be considered. I think these days it's an issue, and it's something that's another way that you can support. Yeah. So I think now we could watch the.
You can show the next slide, so you can
the
see
last slide,
our family group, our center of
just
happiness.
a photo.
There you go.
Yeah, so this is sums it up really. We've got our family. We're trying to live the hita karana ourselves. We keep our relationships strong with our family. With ourselves, we try to fix ourselves. We try to be in harmony with ourselves.
Share our knowledge and our passion through our family.
Yeah.
And then it spread from there. Their friends see it because we use a lot of social media. That will inspire other Balinese family too.
Not just families, but also sanggar. Like I just want to add that we want other sanggar, other organizations in Bali to change for the better. We want them to copy what we do. We don't want to be in competition with people and say, oh, we're doing this all right with this.
We can't do this by ourselves.
We can't.
We need more people.
Fix these problems in Bali on our own. We need the support of, like I said, there are thousands of sanggar in Bali, and if all of them could change, or say no to single-use plastic, that would be a huge change. But we've all got to work together, and so if you could change in yourself, and then you can in your own communities overseas, you have gamelan practice. Don't use single-use cups and plates and so forth. But think about how you can reuse, repurpose things, and then you'll influence others and post about it as well. It's really important. You let others know. Yeah.
You all want to actually take some questions, and then maybe we can drop the because there's so many things that you've talked about. Yeah. Maybe we can go to like some question and answer, and then I can drop the YouTube link in the chat box for people to check out.
So we go straight to questions?
Yeah, let's go straight to questions.
Okay.
Okay, there are some questions on the chats.
Cool. Yeah, let's go.
Just heard of somebody from Ron Shudder. I don't have to say
Ron
Shudder.
He's asked about the plastic exchange. Plastic exchange. Hillary Kane.
About the plastic exchange of Hillary Kane. Do you have any thought or comment about
Oh, okay. This is more a private question, but he's just asking about plates and leaves from Asia, tableware, leaves and bamboo. Yeah, I think that that it's still best to use materials that are not can be reused because even with the organic things, they still become the trash problem. Like I was saying, it actually slows down the process of if the plastic waste is still not going to for 400 years, but it fills up the landfill if there is organic things at the landfill. So compostable plates and so forth are okay if they are made from purely organic materials, no plastic additives. And there's so much greenwashing going on in Indonesia, so much. There's these companies that say, oh, they've got this bag from Kasapa and I can drink it and it breaks down in hot water and stuff. And it's like, but where is the hot water in the environment? I mean, and anyway, it's got plastic additives in it, and who wants to drink it? It's got microplastics in it. So
But anyway, getting back to this, if it is really, really purely made from like banana leaf, you know,
Balinese have lots of options.
yeah,
I guess
lots
in
of
Java
options. But if
also.
you don't compost it, if you just take it to landfill, it becomes a burden on the landfill as well.
Okay. Oh, is the video off? Sorry. Okay.
Okay, we're back on.
Was it off the whole time?
I don't know.
No, it actually just turned off a minute ago when we stopped sharing.
Okay, well now we can see each other.
We're back.
Okay.
Oh, see ourselves, sorry. So are there any questions?
Ed, why don't you
Okay,
jump in?
Thank you, Pa Ed, for staying.
Hanging in there.
Hi. All right.
Sorry.
So, yeah, I think this is a pretty good overview of what you have tried to put forward. Especially, I mean, it seems to me that like this whole throwaway culture, I mean, so you've had like very compostable items like banana leaves and things coming from the environment. And I see like lots of parallels with what the Philippines used to be like. I don't know, like when my parents were children. So I think we could take a look at sort of like, I want to say like parallel situations, maybe elsewhere in Southeast Asia, and see like what are some of their shortcomings, and also what some of their, I really want to say like what some of their accomplishments are too, and see if we can take some inspiration from that. Just because I remember back in 2006, I believe. So I went to Palawan in the Philippines for the first time, and that was my first trip to the Philippines. And the mayor at the time, he put forward a very concerted effort to try to clean up the place. And to tell you the truth, I had never seen like a tropical island in Southeast Asia at that time as clean as Palawan was. And I was just really interested in seeing like what were his efforts in trying to alleviate the litter problem. Unfortunately, I haven't been back since that point, and I'm just wondering if it's still the same. So I think part of this is like trying to make it sustainable so that people will take on these efforts, even if the initial effort is, through, I don't want to say regime changes, but changes in government and things like that. So it belongs to the people to carry those efforts onward. So that was my comment.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks very much, Ed. It's really important input, I think, because what we're talking about is leadership, right? So if you've got a good leader, then that's going to, hopefully, if you can control the people below you, which is a little bit of a problem in Indonesia, particularly in Bali, where you've got this big structure to get through. And this is a bit of, I think we have a pretty good leader in Denpasar with the Mayor Raimantra. He's tried it a lot, but he has problems at the very lower level in Bali, at this village. But beneath that, you've got these heads of the environment and the heads of the Banjar who either don't understand, or the education is not going there, or they have their own political manifesto. Is that the right word? Kepentingan politik, maybe. So if we can get rid of the problems with the political, what's the word? They have their own political reasons for not doing things or for doing things. I know Philippines must have a problem with corruption as well, and we have this big problem still in Indonesia. But So it's not just the corruption of money, but also corruption of time and efficiency and so forth and getting things done. It's saying this here, the cleanup thing is really, really good. But if you're not actually, you're looking at the root cause, which is the plastics industry, getting them on board with redesigning their products or using, not even using plastic if they can. We've seen this in New Zealand. I don't know if you know, but I was so shocked to find out that Wellington Harbour, where I'm from Wellington originally, Wellington Harbour, Greenpeace did a survey of the waters there, and because of a spill of nurdles, which for those of you who don't know, are little plastic beads that are used to create all sorts of plastic products, a spill of that into the Hutt River, which feeds into the Wellington Harbour, we had extremely high levels of microplastics in the waters there where people fish and people swim and so forth. And that wasn't due to a waste management problem. It was due to a practice industry accident. But these accidents can happen so easily. And like I said, in New Zealand, we have the plastic that flies around in the air. And people, don't get me wrong, people consume a lot of single-use plastics in New Zealand too. But we have a strong leader now in New Zealand, Prime Minister, who banned plastic bags. That's a good start. She could be a lot more hardcore about it. I hope she's going to watch this and will be more hardcore about it, completely banning single-use plastic, perhaps with the exception of medical use single-use plastic. But she's talked about removing single-use plastic even from all supermarket shelves, those sorts of things. But we don't have that leadership at the top here in Indonesia yet, unfortunately. And it's really got to come, like I said, it's got to come from the president. It's got to come, even though we have the autonomy daerah, so regional autonomy in Indonesia. It's also, it doesn't mean even if the governor of Bali wanted to make this governor a decree, he's done two. 97, the governor in 97 governor a decree where he not banned plastic bags, banned the distribution of plastic bags, styrofoam, and what was the third one? Straws. The third one, yeah. And those three. But that was a decree that was banning distribution. So it didn't mean people couldn't use them necessarily, but it was stopping the distributors distributing around Bali. But there's so much black market stuff and so much still happening, and hard for us to control all of that. And then there was also a more recent one where he's tried to enforce waste management at the village level, but the villages haven't been provided with the tools
and
of how to.
And then this pandemic actually come, and then all the people down below, like the Kepala Desa, are already busy with taking care of people who positive and test and watch out the area and stuff like that. So yeah.
The problem also with single-use plastics is that you've got to deal with them somehow. If they can't be recycled, they get incinerated. So Singapore is a good example of this. Looks like a really good system, but you've got the results of that slag. The slag, not just the toxicity that comes out of the system. Apparently in Singapore is not very high. I don't know why, but maybe they have really, really good filters. But you're still going to have the slag. Where do you send that slag to? I mean, I don't know if it's quite as dangerous as nuclear waste, but that slag is so toxic, so dangerous. I believe Germany sends their slag to Poland, and Poland sends it somewhere else. Where are you going to send it, in a country like Indonesia where you produce so much single-use plastic? So that whole burning thing that quite a few of the regents in Indonesia and mayors in Indonesia are now taking on, I think, as a solution. It's a really, really dangerous, potentially dangerous option. But I agree you could still clean things up and sort of hide the problems a little bit, but you're still not really fixing the roots, even though that would be really good for tourism. People looks really, really clean, and it's really nice to have it clean. It's going to help for sure, Ed. It's going to help with the marine pollution, which is such a huge issue here, to really stop people littering. But we've also got to work on these multinationals, on the plastics industry, and a lot of these plastic industries were founded or come from outside of Indonesia too. Thanks, Ed. Good to hear your voice for the first time. Any more questions?
I have a comment. So I remember that, the smell of burning plastic is something that I'll remember very strongly from my time in Indonesia. And my kampung would, we had a trash service actually in my kampung where somebody would actually come. We would pay somebody to take the trash, and they would put it in a big cart and it would go away. And then I only realized later where it went after there. There's a big field somewhere west of Surakarta, or maybe southwest, where it's just like an open field that was probably some rice field at some point, but now it's just like an open landfill, and it's constantly on fire. Actually, it's like it's always burning, just because of the heat and probably, what's down. There's goats that live on this mountain, and they're eating through the trash. My friend took a picture of these goats on this trash mountain, and this burning trash mountain. It was like, wow. Because, one of the things you say is, you pick it up and put it in the bin, but then where does it go from there? The real problem is having the things is the main problem, actually, more so than like you said, the individual person. It's more of a systemic issue. I'm not sure what the I don't know what the answer is actually. Is it is it like you go back to all completely compostable and biodegradable materials, like people used to have? How do you do it on a massive scale? Like you said, the government has to agree that it's an issue, and then take drastic measures to encourage people to also agree that it's an issue. As long as people don't think it's an issue, it's just going to keep going on. Out of sight, out of mind. That's how it is in the United States. In the United States, people think that recycling is a thing, but people don't realize we don't even have recycling plants in the United States anymore. We send all of our recycling, paper and plastic. We actually send it to China on ships. Like, stuff comes here, we put it on a ship, we send it back to China, and then they recycle it there or they dump it. So yeah, it's a very tricky topic, because it's really the entire culture of the world right now, is mass consumer plastic culture. How do you change that? That's the real big question, I think.
I think there needs to be a lot more education about how it's killing us as a species. So in terms of talking about Trihita Karana, it's we've got so much imbalance with ourselves, but we're also creating imbalance inside ourselves, so that's relationship with our inner being, because we're poisoning ourselves. And I could say, like you were saying, that you don't know where your trash went. Well, I'm probably poisoning myself too. There's probably some of our trash, even though we think it gets recycled, it's probably getting burnt somewhere. They say they're accepting it. Some of it gets that we think it's recyclable. Yeah. So, but we're, like I said, one of the biggest motivations was our children. So realizing that in 10 years' time they could get a tumor or a cancer or something from this, and we're already seeing this. We already got friends, mostly females, already got quickly got breast cancer, ovary cancer, ovarian cancer, and they live next to a graveyard where they're often ceremonies, where it's probably ceremonies for a band for a cremation ceremony. People now put in a lot of plastic in with the corpse, but also all the decoration stuff like the styrofoam, they just burn it all together. And their house is right next to a graveyard. And so it wasn't a surprise for me that she, after they lived there for about 10 years, she just got breast cancer, just had an operation last week. And you also have heard a lot in Gianyar, which is one of the main, Bali, one of the main artistic areas. There's a lot of stunting because of, and it's just been proved last week, that nanoplastics get into the roots of plants through the soil, through dioxins from people burning trash in the air, landing on the soil and getting to the roots. It actually causes stunting in plants as well. And we don't know what each of those plants does to us. So it probably causes hormonal imbalance. We know that from if you're consuming microplastics through fish and other sorts of animals that have consumed goats, like you said, oh my goats, yeah. The goats eating these plastics, and the humans probably eating the goats.
It's happened here. The cows eat the plastics.
Cows eat the plastics. It gets absorbed to us, causes hormonal imbalances, and then potentially causes changes in the cells, which potentially causes cancer and tumors and so forth. And it's got so bad in Bali with the landfill that we are, let me think, I think 18, there might be a little bit less, 15 kilometers away from the landfill. In a bad wind, like the wind coming in our direction from the landfill. After rain, you could smell the landfill 15 kilometers away. And that's just not a good ad, apart from being really, that just shows how much a big problem is. It's not a good advertisement for tourism. It was so bad in Sanur that people didn't want to walk down the streets. Tourists didn't want to walk down the streets because they could smell this horrible smell from the landfill. And that was the landfill actually burning at the time, or the residue and stuff just festering after it had been burning, because there's so much methane that's built up in the landfill. And so this methane is built up basically because of organic waste that can't escape, and because it's trapped, because it's mixed in with the plastics, you see. But you're so right, Matt, that it's something the world has to change themselves. And I hope that this pandemic would give people some sort of real reflection of what's going wrong, because there've been all these, I've seen these posters across the world and news articles saying, all of a sudden this particular animal species has appeared, or the water's got clearer, or say we've found out that this animal is breeding much more, and there are more animals in these areas and more flora and fauna and everything like that. But then on the other hand, you've got more consumption of single-use plastic and single-use masks and medical waste going into the waterways, and so it's very complex. But I hope that we can use this time for more reflection and see if we can.
We remember, being a person, we're actually strong. The Chink people, we're strong ourselves. Like what we do to create change is actually possible. Start with the separation of the trash at home. Because Bali have a trash problem, but most of the trash, how many percent that organic?
60%.
60% organic, or even more, especially during ceremony. That actually organic. See, if it's never go to landfill, means we just need to worry about the small percentage of all those plastic and all that cannot be. But some of the plastic actually can recycle. So if that never touch organic waste, not contaminated, you can imagine that actually going back, so it can be used again.
Now, something you would have seen in Indonesia, Matt, I'm sure, is the end of the recycling process, the final type of plastic, tali rapia. Did you see that? The string is that plastic cord. I think we have it in the US.
Banana normally if you buy banana in Bali, they hang it with a bit of this string.
Yeah, they use it now when you pick up, if you want to pick up a gamelan set, they'll tie up the gamelan set up with it, and I'll just see them cut it off and they throw it on the ground, or all the bamboo poles at the beach that are supporting trees that are on the beach. They've got that wrapped around, it's all littered all over the sand. It's the really type of plastic, and it's the end of the line for recycling. So most recycling in Indonesia gets recycled probably not at all, but at the most maybe 2 or 3 times. There's some claims that might get recycled 9 times, but at the end of the process, that tali rapia, so tali rapia can't be recycled.
It's recycled from plastic bags, and it's so terrible. When it come to crumble after a few years, it's crumble and became a small pieces of plastic.
But I think the unique problem in Bali, is that we have so many ceremonies. As much as I love ceremonies, I love going to perform 100 ceremonies from Gamelan. But it horrifies me too much waste is produced. And this is unique in Indonesia, that Bali is so much waste produced from ceremonies, and a lot of it organic waste. But unfortunately, offerings also have little bits of plastic in them, and now they're using this little plastic cord. So you've got to be really, really detailed on how you separate. Very, very complex, which means you got to get soil contamination if you're not really, really careful, and there's not good sorting of that. I did have I had this brainwave a few years ago that we tried to convince the Hindu Dharma Association to from the top, like Ed was saying, the leaders have got to be really strong to get all the temples. They have to separate their organic and their plastic waste, and then to get to the pamangku, who are the priests in the temple, the lay priests or volunteers in the temples, to separate the trash. But then they also would use that, they would compost, they do composting on site if it's not allowed in the temple, outside of the temple grounds. And then outside of the temple grounds, organic gardening. This is all this, I had this sort of really socialist
concept. The trends coming. But it's actually,
it could happen.
We're not saying that there's nothing changed. There's a change in Bali. It's got to be a trend, and many Balinese actually introduced now to a Bayapuri. They put it into their temple. they make this hall, they put everything after they're praying, they put not the plastic, of course, this is special for the organic stuff. So they put it there. So when the organics handle, and then they need to worry just a bit small amount of the percentage of the plastic. Basically, that's how, like, that's why we use social media, we create awareness, we work with other people. There's like, we know friends who are doing different things, but they focus on the same, about sustainable. So we work with people like that, have the same passion as us, but even though they're doing different things, but we're trying to reach to the same things. But he stay in the village, which is really good that way. Just to make the stronger in the village community to be aware of what they already have.
We do see that at ceremonies, the majority of the plastic waste is from these little cups or the bottles with the straws and the covers. So if you could get water filtration, even through those gravity filters, every temple has 20 gravity filters. They have to be maintained, by the way, too, so you have to clean it out once a week or something. The gravity filters, and then you get all the people, say to the people, if you want to have water, you've got to bring your own bottle, as you're not coming into the temple. Even the mayor of Denpasar said he even has done some campaigns where he won't let any plastic bags into the temples. And they have the pachalang, the traditional security guards at the gate, checking people's bags if they've got any plastic in them, or checking if their offerings are wrapped in plastic. They have to hide the plastic, or they're not allowed to bring the plastic. They have to leave the plastic for the security guards before they come in, because there have been some ceramah, which is, what do you call it, ceramah in English? Sort of like
a seminar,
or like a religious
like
sort
a
of
talk.
Religious talk saying that plastic is toxic and we've got to keep it out of the temples. If you can get that sort of mindset happening, that would be really, really great.
It's just not enough, that's all. Considering, because
it's not consistent. We find that in Indonesia it's quite hard to get
consistent.
consistency and to get people to be really strict. You would know yourself from being in Indonesia, Matt, that Indonesians don't like to be too strict, because they also want to avoid this conflict between people. So they don't want to be Singapore strict, but in a way you need the Singapore strict to get some of the laws happening in terms of not using single-use plastic.
Actually, Bali can go back again to things like, when you talk about water filter, there's like a traditional way. I only learned this from a friend who stay in a village, who also doing the same thing as us, but start in the village. More like sustainable, like Balinese cooking, and then house, the way people build house. So he and his family preserving that and teaching the village to understand the value and keeping that way. And the same thing, like they keeping the knowledge of filtering water that Balinese used to do. People can still remember. So bringing this thing or supporting something like that actually can help gradually, and using your social media for this kind of thing. And also, thank you very much for this talk. I think it's really great to have the opportunity to talk about this through Balinese dance community. To be able to...
I'm not sure if the government is watching, but the Environmental Department in Denpasar said they want to watch, so hopefully they are.
So the more and more people do it.
We try to support them as much as we can.
We hope this will lead to a bigger change.
Are there any more questions or comments?
I don't see any more popping up here in the chat, unless you have any coming directly to you over there. Oh, your video just froze. Oh, and the volume.
Okay, now.
It's a massive topic, like you said, and we've talked quite a long time about it. But it's something that is it's frightening, but it can be inspiring, and it's not inspiring. What people can do can be inspiring, because if we don't do something, it's going to get much, much worse. There's only going to be increase of population, I'm just talking about Gamelan dance, increase of sanggar. It's going to get worse and worse in terms of single-use plastic consumption and waste management. The crisis is going to get worse. So we all have to do something
together. Everybody has to make an effort, and don't be afraid of being weird or hardcore or eccentric or something. In the end, people will remember you for it. Do people come in here and they oh, Peter, hide the plastic bag. This is Evie's house or Evie's.
Or
like that,
inviting us for not providing plastic cups.
But they remember that, even though they might be still hiding the plastic bag. But then eventually they'll change. We'll see that we'll change. We'll see that they'll change. It's a process, and this takes time. We've got to do it. We've got to start now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. And we're gonna be back next Sunday with Vaughan and Evie, where they're going to present a documentary film that they produced about some of the recreated Gamelan forms. And that's I think the documentary is from last year, but it's the English translation is new, so that should be very fun. We'll watch that, and then we'll discuss that next Sunday. So thank you for everybody coming. And let's, like we talked about before, these are ongoing conversations. These type of like tangentially related topics to Gamelan are things that we need to keep talking about, all the time. So let's keep that up. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Thanks for hosting us.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.